A poor waitress confessed her crush on a customer's receipt she didn't know he's the CEO, Millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's incredible tale. I can't believe I did that. Emma Brooks kept muttering to herself as she hurried down the street, the cold night air doing little to calm her nerves. She had just walked out of a restaurant, embarrassed beyond belief, having mistaken a man for her blind date. Worse, she had spilled her heart out to him, telling him about her dreams, her struggles, and her life only to find out he wasn't Kevin, the man she had been supposed to meet. She had been talking to a complete stranger. And not just any stranger, a man who looked like he belonged to a different world, worlds away from the life she was living. As she passed the darkened windows of the buildings, her mind raced with the realization of how much of a fool she had made of herself. Was it possible that she would never see him again? Was that a good thing or a bad thing? She wasn't sure, but right now, all she wanted was to forget the whole evening ever happened. I can't believe this is happening, Emma thought as she walked toward the cafe. The message from Claire still lingered in her mind. Liam Parker wanted to meet with her. The Liam Parker. She could hardly believe it. Just yesterday, she had run out of the restaurant, embarrassed beyond belief, having mistaken him for her blind date. Now, here she was, about to meet him again. But this time, she knew who he was. He was a billionaire tech CEO. She couldn't help but feel a bit of dread as she approached the cafe, her heart pounding with each step. She kept telling herself it would be fine, that she didn't need to be nervous. But the truth was, she had no idea what to expect. As she walked inside, the familiar clink of coffee cups and the chatter of other customers barely registered. Her eyes immediately searched the room, landing on Liam sitting by the window. He was wearing a casual gray sweater and jeans, a far cry from the suited-up man she had seen the day before. He looked up as she approached, a slight smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Emma," he greeted her, his voice warm. "I'm glad you could make it." Emma smiled awkwardly, feeling her cheeks flush. "Of course," she replied, sitting down across from him. There was a moment of silence as she sat, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of her napkin. "I'm sure you're wondering why I wanted to meet with you," Liam began, breaking the silence. Emma nodded, still unsure of how to react. "I know this might sound strange, but after our encounter yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about you." Emma blinked, surprised by his honesty. I thought it was just a funny misunderstanding at first," he continued. "But then I realized that there was something about you, something real. I've met a lot of people in my life, but you're different." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say anything like that. "You see," Liam said, leaning in slightly, "I'm not just looking for a casual connection. I want to get to know people, really get to know them. And after talking to you, I felt like you were someone worth knowing." Emma stared at him, unsure how to respond. She had never met someone like him before, someone who seemed to genuinely care about getting to know her. But at the same time, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was all some kind of elaborate joke. "I don't want you to think I'm some rich guy trying to buy your affection," Liam continued, sensing her hesitation. "That's not it at all. I just thought maybe we could start over, without any of the pretenses. I don't want you to feel like you have to be anything but yourself." Emma swallowed hard. She had no idea what to say. She had never been around someone like Liam before. She wasn't used to men like him, the ones with power and money, the ones who could change her life in an instant. And yet, here he was, telling her he wanted to start over, as if yesterday never happened. "I don't know if I'm the kind of person you're looking for," Emma finally said, her voice soft. "I'm just a waitress. I don't have the kind of life that someone like you is used to." Liam smiled gently. "That's the thing, Emma. I don't care about your job or your past. I care about who you are, and I think there's more to you than just the waitress you think you are." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had spent so many years feeling like she wasn't enough, like she wasn't worthy of anything better than the life she had. But Liam's words made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. "So what do you want from me?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam looked at her, his gaze steady. "I don't want anything from you, Emma. I just want to see where this goes. I think there's a connection between us, and I'd like to explore that, but only if you're open to it." Emma took a deep breath, trying to process everything he had said. It was overwhelming, but at the same time, it felt like something she couldn't pass up. She had always dreamed of something more, something bigger than the life she was living. And here was Liam, offering her that chance. "I'm not sure I'm ready for all of this," Emma admitted, "but I'd like to get to know you better." Liam's smile grew wider. "That's all I ask," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "Let's take things slow, no pressure, just two people getting to know each other, without any expectations." Emma nodded slowly, her heart finally starting to calm. Maybe this wasn't a joke after all. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. As she sat across from him, she couldn't help but feel that the strange twist of fate that had brought them together wasn't a mistake after all. It was a chance to discover something new, something unexpected. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was ready to take that chance. As the days passed, Emma and Liam began to meet more often, each encounter leaving her with more questions than answers. At first, it was just casual coffee dates, but soon they were spending hours together, talking about everything and nothing. The more time Emma spent with Liam, the more she found herself questioning her own life. Liam was unlike anyone she had ever known. He was kind, genuine, and, despite his immense wealth, he never made her feel inferior. It was easy to get lost in the conversations they shared, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she belonged somewhere, even if just for a moment. One evening, as they sat in a cozy cafe tucked away from the busy streets, Liam looked at Emma with a gentle smile. "You know, I've been thinking," he began, his voice calm but serious. "I want to help you with your art. I see how much it means to you, and I think you deserve to be more than just a waitress." Emma blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" she asked, unsure of where this conversation was headed. Liam leaned forward slightly, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I know that you've been dreaming of opening your own studio. I want to help make that happen. I can't promise it will be easy, but I can give you the resources to get started." Emma's heart raced in her chest. She had always dreamed of owning her own art studio, but it seemed like an impossible goal, something out of reach. "But why would you do that for me?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Liam smiled softly, his gaze never leaving hers. "Because I believe in you, Emma. I believe in your talent, and I believe that you deserve a chance to chase your dreams. I know that you've been working hard, and I want to support you in any way I can." Emma could hardly process what he was saying. It wasn't just that Liam was offering to help her, it was that he believed in her. He didn't see her as just a waitress. He saw her for who she truly was. Someone with potential and passion. "I don't know what to say," Emma whispered, her voice cracking. "I've never had someone believe in me like this before." Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "You don't have to say anything. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what." Emma felt a lump in her throat as she looked down at their intertwined hands. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone. Like someone cared about her future. Someone who wasn't just trying to take advantage of her. It felt too good to be true, but she could see the sincerity in Liam's eyes. As the weeks went by, Emma took Liam up on his offer. With his help, she was able to secure a small space for her art studio and began to work on building it from the ground up. Liam never pushed her, never made her feel like she owed him anything. He simply supported her, offering advice when she needed it and celebrating her successes along the way. As Emma started to build her studio, she couldn't help but feel conflicted. She was grateful for Liam's help, but she also feared that she was starting to develop feelings for him. She couldn't deny the connection they shared, but she also wasn't sure if she could trust it. Was he truly interested in her, or was he just helping her out of pity? She wasn't sure how to answer that question, but she couldn't ignore the way her heart fluttered every time he smiled at her. One evening, after a long day of painting, Emma was sitting in her new studio, admiring the work she had done. The walls were still bare, but it already felt like a place where she could finally create without limits. She was lost in her thoughts when Liam walked in, a warm smile on his face. "How's it going?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "It's coming along," Emma replied, her voice soft. "I still have a long way to go, but it feels good to finally have my own space." Liam walked over to her, his eyes scanning the room. "I'm proud of you, Emma. You've come a long way." Emma looked up at him, a smile tugging at her lips. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You've helped me in ways I never thought possible." Liam stepped closer to her, his expression softening. "You've done all the hard work, Emma. You just needed someone to believe in you. You're the one who's making this happen." Emma felt a surge of emotion in her chest. She had worked so hard for this moment, but she hadn't realized just how much Liam's support had meant to her. As she stood there, in the quiet of her studio, surrounded by the work she had created, she realized that it wasn't just the art that had changed her, it was the belief someone had shown in her. It was Liam's unwavering support, his belief in her potential, that had helped her find her way. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late for her to believe in herself, too. As the days turned into weeks, Emma's studio continued to take shape, each brushstroke on the canvas reminding her of how far she had come. It felt surreal. She had been so afraid of failing, of not being good enough. But now, as she stood in the center of her own space, she realized she had accomplished more than she ever thought possible. Liam had been right beside her every step of the way, always offering encouragement and never once treating her like a charity case. His support had been the steady anchor she had needed, and she found herself growing more and more comfortable in her new role as an artist and entrepreneur. One evening, as Emma worked late into the night, she received a text message from Liam. "How's the new project coming along? Would love to see it." She smiled as she read his words, a feeling of warmth spreading through her chest. She had grown fond of him, not just as a mentor, but as someone who genuinely cared about her well-being. It wasn't just the help with the studio that had made him so special, it was the way he listened, the way he respected her dreams, even when they seemed impossible. She had started to look forward to their conversations, their time together, and even the quiet moments where no words were needed. As she finished her painting and stepped back to admire it, she felt a familiar sense of pride. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call. She answered it quickly, a little surprised. "Hey, Emma," Liam's voice came through, warm as always. "I was thinking. We should go to that charity gala next week. It would be a great chance for you to showcase your work and meet some influential people in the art world. What do you think?" Emma felt a rush of excitement, mixed with nerves. She had always dreamed of being seen, of having people recognize her art for what it truly was. "I don't know, Liam," she hesitated. "I'm not sure if I'm ready for something like that." She glanced at her painting again, unsure. It's one thing to create, but showing it to people, especially people who might be looking at it with critical eyes, it's intimidating. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before Liam spoke again, his voice steady and reassuring. "I get it, Emma. But I know you're ready. You've come so far, and you've got the talent. Plus, this could be the opportunity you've been waiting for. I believe in you." His words resonated deep within her. She had heard those words so many times before, but this time, they felt different. He wasn't just telling her she could do it, he was telling her because he truly believed it. A small smile tugged at the corners of her lips as she looked down at her phone. She had come so far because of him, but more importantly, she had started believing in herself. "Okay, let's do it," she said, her voice filled with newfound confidence. "I'm in." The night of the gala arrived, and Emma found herself standing in front of the mirror in the small apartment she now called home. She had spent hours trying to pick the perfect outfit, and when she finally settled on a simple black dress, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. It wasn't flashy or extravagant, but it was her. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was going to be herself. As she made her way to the venue, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves. She had never attended an event like this before, especially not as someone showcasing their own work. When she arrived, Liam was already there, dressed in a sharp suit that made him look even more sophisticated than she remembered. He smiled when he saw her, and for a moment, all the nerves she had been feeling seemed to melt away. "You look stunning, Emma," he said, his voice soft but sincere. "I'm glad you came." Emma blushed slightly, trying to ignore the butterflies in her stomach. "Thank you," she replied, feeling a wave of warmth at his compliment. As they entered the gala, Emma couldn't help but feel a little out of place. The room was filled with art collectors, critics, and influencers. All people who seemed so much more established than she was. But Liam was by her side, and that made all the difference. As the evening went on, Emma found herself slowly relaxing. She had set up her painting, a piece that was close to her heart, and as people walked by, they took notice. She overheard a few whispers, people admiring her work, commenting on the emotion it conveyed, and for the first time, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she belonged here. At the end of the night, as Emma was about to pack up her things, a well-dressed man approached her. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said with a smile. "I couldn't help but admire your work. It's rare to see something so raw and full of emotion. I'd love to have a conversation about a possible collaboration." Emma's heart skipped a beat. This was it, her big break. She glanced over at Liam, who gave her an encouraging smile. "You've got this," he mouthed. She turned back to the man, smiling brightly. "I'd love to talk," she replied, her voice filled with excitement. As the night came to a close, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. She had taken a leap of faith, and now it was paying off. Liam had been right. She was ready. And this was only the start of her journey. The following weeks were a whirlwind for Emma. Her painting had attracted more attention than she ever imagined, and the offer to collaborate with the art collector was only the beginning. She was no longer just a waitress, she was a recognized artist, with her own vision, her own space, and, most importantly, her own future to build. Liam continued to support her every step of the way, offering advice, introductions, and the occasional gentle nudge when she hesitated. He was there, always encouraging, but never pushing too hard. He respected her boundaries and gave her the space to grow, both as an artist and as a person. But Emma knew something had changed between them. Their bond had deepened, the connection they shared growing stronger with each passing day. They spent more time together, both in and out of the studio. They laughed, talked about their dreams, and supported each other through their respective challenges. Despite their differences, Emma found herself falling for him, and she could tell the same was happening on his end. But there was always that nagging voice in her head, reminding her of the gap between their worlds. He was a millionaire, a CEO, and she was just a girl who had spent most of her life in struggle. Could this really work? Could someone like him ever truly understand her? Or would he eventually grow tired of her humble beginnings, her small dreams that still felt so far out of reach? It was the night of her first solo exhibition, and Emma was on edge. Her art was up on the walls for the world to see, and the thought of people judging her work left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. She had worked so hard to get to this point, but now that she was here, she wasn't sure if she was ready for what came next. Liam had insisted on being there to support her, and even though Emma was nervous, she found comfort in his presence. As the crowd filled the gallery, Emma stood by her paintings, a soft smile on her face as she greeted each person who walked by. Her heart pounded in her chest, but every compliment, every nod of approval from the visitors, made her feel a little more at ease. It wasn't just about the art anymore. It was about the recognition, the validation that she had made the right choice by taking the leap. Liam was nearby, speaking with a few guests, but Emma's eyes kept finding him in the crowd. Every time he caught her gaze, he gave her that soft smile, the one that always made her feel like she could do anything. As the evening went on, Emma's confidence grew. She was no longer the girl who hid behind her art, afraid to show the world who she truly was. She was the artist, standing proudly in her own gallery, her work displayed for everyone to see. And then, as the night began to wind down, Liam approached her, his eyes filled with admiration. "I knew you had it in you, Emma," he said, his voice low and sincere. "You're incredible." Emma felt a rush of emotions flood through her. She had worked so hard for this moment, but it wasn't just the art that made her feel accomplished, it was the fact that Liam had been there through it all, supporting her when she needed it most. She had never felt so seen, so understood. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you." Liam smiled softly, stepping closer. "You did this, Emma. All I did was believe in you." His words were simple, but they carried so much weight. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. She wasn't just grateful for his support, she was grateful for him, for the person he was, and for the connection they had built together. "I'm glad you're here," she said quietly, meeting his gaze. "I'm glad we're doing this together." The words hung in the air for a moment, and as their eyes locked, Emma realized something. She had been afraid for so long, afraid of rejection, of not being good enough, of being too different. But in this moment, with Liam standing beside her, she realized that she didn't need to be afraid anymore. She didn't need to worry about the differences between their worlds. What mattered was the bond they shared, the trust they had in each other, and the future they could build together. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. As the night came to a close, Liam took her hand in his fingers gently brushing against hers. "I think this is just the beginning for you, Emma," he said softly, "and I want to be here for all of it." Emma squeezed his hand, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Me too," she said, her heart full of hope and possibility. Together, they walked out of the gallery, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could take on the world. The days that followed Emma's solo exhibition felt like a dream. Her art studio was thriving, and she was finally gaining recognition in the art world. People who had once ignored her or overlooked her potential were now seeking her out, eager to see her latest works and hear her story. Emma had worked so hard to get to this point, and yet it still felt surreal. Every day she walked into her studio, looked at the walls covered in her paintings, and couldn't believe this was her life now. It wasn't just the art that made her feel accomplished. It was the confidence that had begun to build inside her. She had found her voice, and it was powerful. Liam continued to be a steady presence in her life, offering guidance, support, and, most importantly, belief in her abilities. They spent more time together than ever, both professionally and personally. He had become more than just a mentor, he had become a close friend, someone she trusted with her dreams and her fears. But despite everything that was going well, there was still something Emma couldn't shake. She felt an undercurrent of uncertainty in the back of her mind, a nagging voice telling her that maybe all of this was too good to be true. Liam was everything she had ever wanted, kind, successful, and supportive. But sometimes, she couldn't help but wonder if their worlds were too different. He was a billionaire, a CEO of a major company, and she was a girl who had spent most of her life just trying to get by. Could a relationship between them really work? Was she just a project for him? Something he had helped build up, but could never truly love because she wasn't from his world? Those thoughts plagued her more than she cared to admit. One evening, as she and Liam sat at a quiet cafe after a long day of work, Emma finally decided to voice her concerns. The air was crisp, and the dim lighting gave the room a soft, intimate feel. "Liam," she began, hesitating slightly as she looked down at her coffee. "Can we talk about something?" Liam looked up from his phone, concern in his eyes. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Emma took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about us," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "About everything that's happened. I know you've been incredibly supportive, and I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I just don't know if I'm enough for you." Liam's expression softened as he reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "What do you mean by that?" he asked, his voice full of understanding. Emma looked up at him, her eyes searching his. "I don't know if I can be the person you need," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You come from a completely different world than I do. You've built this incredible life, and I'm still just trying to figure out where I fit into it all. I'm not sure if I belong there, if I belong with you." Liam's heart ached as he listened to her words. He could see the uncertainty in her eyes, the fear that had been holding her back. He had never once thought of Emma as anything less than perfect, just as she was. To him, she was more than enough. "Emma," he said softly, "you don't have to be anyone other than yourself. I don't need you to fit into my world. I need you to be in my life. That's what matters. I believe in you. I believe in everything you're capable of. I've never cared about the life you came from, only the person you are. And that's more than enough for me." Emma felt a rush of emotion flood through her. His words were exactly what she needed to hear. And they eased the doubt that had been eating away at her for so long. She had been so focused on the differences between their worlds, so convinced that she wasn't good enough, that she hadn't stopped to realize that the only thing that truly mattered was their connection. Liam squeezed her hand, his eyes full of sincerity. "You are enough, Emma. You always have been. And I want to spend my life with you, in whatever way that looks like. You don't have to prove anything to me. You've already proven everything I need to know." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, and she smiled softly, her heart full of warmth. She had been afraid for so long, afraid of not being enough, afraid that the gap between them would be too wide to bridge. But in that moment, sitting across from Liam, she realized that it wasn't the differences that mattered, it was the love, trust, and understanding they shared. They had built something real, something beautiful, and that was all that mattered. "I'm glad you're here," Emma whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm glad we're doing this together." Liam leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and smiled. "Me too," he said softly. "And I always will be." As they sat there, surrounded by the warmth of the cafe, Emma finally felt at peace. She didn't need to be perfect. She didn't need to fit into any mold. All she needed was to be herself, and that was more than enough. In the months that followed, Emma's life began to shift in ways she never could have imagined. With Liam by her side, supporting her every step of the way, she continued to grow both as an artist and as a person. Her art studio flourished, and her work began to gain even more recognition. She had exhibitions lined up, opportunities with new collectors, and a growing sense of confidence that had once seemed out of reach. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a respected artist, with a future ahead of her, one she had built on her own terms. And through all of this, Liam remained a constant presence in her life, not just as a supporter, but as someone who truly cared for her. Their relationship had deepened, and despite the differences in their backgrounds, they had found common ground in their shared values and the love that had blossomed between them. But as much as Emma had grown, there was still one thing that weighed heavily on her heart: the lingering doubts. She couldn't help but wonder if the life she had created with Liam was truly sustainable, if their worlds could ever fully align. It was one thing to build a life together in the short term, but could they maintain that bond when faced with the pressures of their individual realities? Emma knew that her own fears were something she had to face, but she also knew she couldn't do it alone. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Liam's penthouse, looking out over the city skyline, Emma turned to him, her heart heavy. "Liam," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I need to talk to you about something." Liam looked at her with concern, setting his drink down and leaning forward to listen. "What's on your mind?" he asked, his voice filled with care. Emma took a deep breath before speaking again. "I love what we have, I really do, but I keep wondering if it's enough. Our lives are so different, and I'm afraid that eventually the gap will be too big to bridge." She paused, searching his eyes for understanding. "You're a billionaire, a CEO, and I'm still just me. I don't want to hold you back, and I don't want to be the reason you have to make sacrifices in your life." Liam listened carefully, his gaze never leaving hers. He could see the vulnerability in her eyes, the fear that had been holding her back from fully embracing their future. He reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands, lifting her chin so that she met his gaze. "Emma," he said softly, "I've told you this before, but I'll say it again. You are enough. More than enough. I don't need you to be anyone other than yourself. I don't care about the differences in our lives. What matters to me is that we share a connection, that we trust and care for each other. That's what makes us strong. Not the money, not the titles, not the things we've accomplished. It's the bond we've built." Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek, and she quickly wiped it away, embarrassed by her own emotions. But Liam only smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "I understand your fears, Emma," he continued, "and I don't want you to ever feel like you have to be something you're not. I've never expected you to fit into a mold, or to be anyone other than who you are, and I never will. You've already brought so much into my life. You've helped me see things differently, and I'm not going anywhere." Emma's heart swelled with emotion as she listened to his words. She had been afraid of being judged, of not measuring up. But here was Liam, telling her that she was more than enough. In that moment, all of her doubts seemed to fade away. She realized that the love they shared was not about the material differences between them, it was about their hearts, their souls, and the connection that had formed between them. Thank you, Emma whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I needed to hear that. Liam smiled and leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. I'm always here for you, Emma. Always. They sat there for a while, wrapped in the quiet of the evening, the city lights sparkling below them. Emma realized that she had finally found something she had been searching for her entire life. Not just success, but love, real, unconditional love. With Liam by her side, she knew they could face whatever the future held. The doubts that had once seemed so overwhelming now felt insignificant in the light of their shared commitment to each other. They didn't need to have everything figured out right now. What mattered was that they had each other, and that was enough. Together, they would face whatever came next, building a future not based on differences, but on the love and trust they had built together. As the months went by, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger. They faced challenges, yes, but they faced them together. The doubts Emma once had about whether their worlds could truly merge faded into the background as they created a life that worked for both of them. She continued to build her art studio, expanding her portfolio and gaining recognition for her unique style. Her name was starting to appear in art galleries and publications, and she was even being approached for collaborations with renowned artists. But more than the success in her career, it was the life she was building with Liam that made her feel like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Liam, for his part, had continued to support her every step of the way, never pushing, never pressuring, just there with quiet encouragement. He was still the CEO of his company, handling the pressures that came with it, but he made sure to always be present in Emma's life. They spent weekends traveling together, exploring new cities, finding inspiration, and making memories. Even in the chaos of their busy lives, they found time for each other. One afternoon, while they were walking through the park, Liam turned to her with a soft smile. You know, he began, his voice thoughtful, I've been thinking about how far we've come, how much you've accomplished. I'm so proud of you, Emma. Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Thank you, she replied, her voice soft. I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Liam stopped walking and gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumb tracing the line of her cheek. I'll always believe in you, he said, his voice filled with sincerity. And I'll always be here for you. Emma felt a lump in her throat, the emotions she had been holding and threatening to spill over. They had been through so much, and yet here they were, stronger than ever. She knew, without a doubt, that their love was real. It wasn't about the differences between them, it was about how they had come together and supported each other. I love you, Emma whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Liam smiled, his eyes softening. I love you too, he said, leaning in to kiss her gently. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was everything they had been building together, a love grounded in trust, in support, in the little moments that made all the difference. As they walked hand in hand through the park, Emma knew that their journey was far from over. There would still be challenges, there would still be moments of doubt, but she was no longer afraid. She had Liam by her side, and together, they would face whatever came next. They had built something real, something worth fighting for, and that was all that mattered. It wasn't about the past they came from or the future they were still working towards. It was about the love they had found in each other, the strength they had discovered in themselves, and the life they were creating together. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Emma leaned her head against Liam's shoulder, feeling content. For the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. She had everything she needed right here with him. And with that thought, she realized that no matter what came next, they would always have each other. The story of their journey had only just begun, and the possibilities were endless.